Hello and welcome to the new What's New in TestRail 5.7 webinar. I'm the TestRail product manager, Simon Knight, and also with me on the webinar today is Lara Gill, our customer success team lead, and David Enriquez, our lead support engineer.
Hello, everyone.
Just before we get started, hello, David. Just before we get started, I've got a few housekeeping announcements. We're planning on around 30 minutes for the webinar. We'll be using the GoToWebinar chat console to take questions during the webinar. So if you have a question related to TestRail 5.7, then you'll be able to ask that using the GoToWebinar console, and our lead support engineer, either David or Vu Tran, who's also helping us out with the questions today, they'll be on the console trying to answer those questions directly for you. And if we have some time at the end of the webinar, which we do expect to, we will aim to answer some of your questions there also. We will be keeping everybody on mute throughout the entire webinar. If you do have any questions or comments, please feel free to share them in the chat room, as I mentioned. We are recording the webinar, and so long as you registered, a link to the recorded webinar will be sent out once the video has been processed. Just to mention as well that I'm recording this webinar in the UK. I have a school right outside my home, and it is prime ice cream van time. So I apologize in advance for any ice cream van tunes you hear during the course of the webinar. You may well hear a couple. And if you feel so inclined, feel free to amuse yourselves by playing Name That Ice Cream Van tune and telling us what it is in the GoToWebinar console, where I'm sure Vu and David will appreciate that. So without further ado, moving into the webinar proper, we're going to be talking about what's new in TestRail 5.7. We're going to cover off the new API endpoints that we introduced with the 5.7 release, and also the new capability that we added to modify test results in your TestRail instance. We're also going to spend some time talking about our new enterprise features, what they are, how they work, and how you can get them, if you haven't done so already. Also, we'll try and take some questions at the end of the webinar, as I mentioned already. So if you do have questions, please remember to post those into the GoToWebinar console. All right, so getting straight into things, we're going to kick off the webinar with the enhancements to our edit test results functionality. So this was very much a community-led change, with the capability to be able to modify your test results in TestRail being one of our very most highly requested features. In fact, it was probably the most highly requested feature on our list of feature requests. So we finally got around to introducing that functionality for you, and we enhanced the result status functionality so that if you make a mistake or for some reason enter a test result status that you later decide needs to be changed, you're now able to do so. Prior to 5.7, you would not have been able to change the result status, and you would instead have needed to enter a new result with the status that you actually wanted to record. So hopefully we've pleased a lot of you by introducing that functionality. We also added a new modify test results permission. That's switched off by default. So if you want to enable that for your testers, you need to go into the administration console and just click the checkbox, as you can see on the screen here. And once you've enabled that, then users with that permission will have the ability to modify the results of other testers should they need to do so for review purposes, for example. One of the ways in which this functionality benefits testers over and above the ability to simply be able to make corrections or adjustments where they need to is that if you have tests that span a period of time, for example, you might have a long-running business acceptance test that might take a couple of days to actually execute. And as a result of the fact that that test spans, several hours or a couple of days or whatever, you may have more than one person needing to be involved in actually executing that test. Enabling the new modified test result will allow for situations where one person is able to start a test in TestRail, and then another tester is able to come in at a later time or even date and finish that test off. So one additional thing to note in relation to the modified test result functionality is that it does honor the pre-existing editing test results setting in the administration console. So if you want to time restrict or extend the window of time during which you're able to modify your test results, that's where you can do it. Okay, moving on to trigger reports. So another new feature in 5.7, we introduced a couple of new API endpoints. One of them is the reports endpoints. So what these enable you to do is see when reports in a project are accessible to the API, and you can use the get reports endpoint to be able to see which reports are executable via the API, and then you can trigger those reports once you've got the IDs using the get reports endpoint. You can trigger those using the run report endpoint. Again, this was a community-led enhancement with the capability to be able to run reports via the API, appearing very high up on our list of most requested features. So as I mentioned before, you can actually run your reports via the API. You do need to identify them using the get reports endpoint, and before you can identify those reports using that endpoint, you need to do a little bit of setup in the TestRail UI. We haven't yet provided you with a means to actually create reports using the API, so you still need to do that via the existing create reports view in TestRail. And basically, when doing so, if you want to access the report via the API, you just need to make sure that the new on-demand via the API checkbox is checked in the create this report area of your report settings, as you can see on the screen right now. Once you've done that, your new report will appear in the new API templates section on the reports page, and in other areas depending on the specific report settings. So once you've created some API accessible reports, you'll be able to see them using the get reports endpoint. Please do bear in mind that the endpoint does honor the sharing settings defined in the report itself. So if you've marked a report as API accessible but can't see it, then the first thing to check is going to be who the report is available to in the report settings. Calling the get reports endpoint will return a list of report IDs that you can use in a subsequent call to the run report checkpoint, endpoint rather. Calling the run report endpoint with a report ID will trigger an execution of the specified report and return a list of URLs via which you can access the finished report. Once the report has been run, you can navigate to it using the TestRail report URL, or you can grab the HTML or the PDF versions of the reports using the appropriate URLs returned in the response, as you can see here. In a similar vein, our TestRail 5.7 release included some attachment endpoints, the ability to upload and download attachments using new API endpoints, mainly with an eye towards automation teams who want to upload screenshots and reports, things like that, with their test results as part of their test automation approaches. So again, this is by popular demand, a feature that was very highly requested by the community, and we've added the add attachment to result and add attachment to result for case endpoints to our API repertoire. So there's a few things that you need to know about how to use the add attachment endpoints, and while I don't necessarily want to get into the weeds during this webinar, you just need to be aware that when including the add attachment calls as part of your automation stack, they need to be implemented as multi-part post requests with the attachment included within the request body, not the header. And for more details about the specifics of how to implement that, you can go and take a look at our API documentation on the docs.gurup.com site. When you add an attachment, you will get the add attachment ID back. The IDs for attachments can also be found using the get attachments endpoints, and they can also be found in the various get results endpoints along with your test results as well, as you can see on the screen here. Once you have an attachment ID, you can download the attachment using the get attachment endpoint, or if you wish, you can delete it using the delete attachment endpoint. Again, as seen there. Yet another feature that was super high up on our list of requested features, particularly by enterprise organizations, is single sign-on. So with our new TestRail single sign-on feature, you can integrate TestRail with your identity provider of choice and manage all of your users centrally, making life easier for both you, the administrator, and for your testers, your TestRail users, since they now only need to log in once to their identity provider, and they've got access to all of their applications, including TestRail. Here's an example that I set up earlier in true Blue Peter style, demonstrating that the configuration is relatively straightforward. Once you've configured both TestRail and your single sign-on identity provider with the required information, you'll be able to test out your connection and start streamlining your user management and authentication processes. With everything configured, you just need to make sure that your users have been enabled for single sign-on authentication by going into their profiles and checking the Enable SSO checkbox. If you have lots of users, you can utilize the TestRail bulk user edit feature in order to do this. And once single sign-on is configured and enabled for your users, they'll be able to log in using the configured single sign-on provider, Okta in the example seen here. If you still want your testers to be able to log in or fall back to their existing TestRail credentials, then you can do that by checking the authentication fallback checkbox on the single sign-on configuration tab in the administration console. While you're there, You can also enable the ability to create accounts on first login by checking the appropriate box. What this means is, once new users are added to your identity provider, so long as they've been granted access to TestRail as an application, then the first time they try to log into TestRail, their account will be automatically created in TestRail for them. So with all of those users pottering around on your TestRail instance, it's going to be increasingly important to be able to see what changes are being made, when, and by who. The new TestRail Audit Logging feature provides you with exactly that. As a TestRail Enterprise customer, you'll be able to access the audit log via the TestRail administration console. If you happen to be an enterprise server customer, then in addition to being able to configure audit logging inside of TestRail itself, you can also write your audit logs to an external file to be read using whichever log reader you're most comfortable with. Once you've activated your audit log, you can configure it according to your preferences, setting the desired audit level, the maximum number of audit records stored, and the maximum number of days to store them for. You can also specify the maximum number of rows to display on the audit log page. And if you're an enterprise server customer, you also have the option of setting custom maximum records and storage configurations, since it's your own infrastructure on which you're storing them. When you get to the actual logging tab itself, then you'll see, depending on the level of your audit logging settings, mine are set to high here. You'll see all of the updates, the creations and deletions for all of your TestRail assets. Your projects, your cases, your tests, runs, milestones, along with all of the information about what changes have been made, when, by who, and how, whether it was via the UI or the API. And if you want to apply a filter to the log, then you can do it quickly and easily using the filtering window. And if you just want to export the log for further analysis, then you can do that too. Finally, for our enterprise cloud customers, we've introduced the capability to be able to specify at what time your instance backups are taken. And we've done this so as to minimize the risk of disruption to your team if they happen to reside in a different time zone to our cloud infrastructure data centers. So what this allows you to do is you can go and configure your backup time in the administration console by simply selecting the preferred backup window on the administration console backups tab. Once you've set your preference, we'll make sure we start our backup during the backup window you specified. Please bear in mind though that depending on the size of your TestRail cloud instance, the actual backup duration may take longer than the 1 hour window specified. And should the worst happen and you find yourself in need of a restoration from your previous backup, as a TestRail Enterprise Cloud customer, you can initiate one yourself using the Restore Backup feature. Once you've confirmed you really want to go ahead with the restoration, bearing in mind that the restored data will overwrite your existing data and any changes made since the backup was taken, once you've confirmed, the restoration will be automatically scheduled in our cloud infrastructure. Once it gets underway, the instance will go into maintenance mode until the restoration is completed. All right, so those are the vast majority of our TestRail 5.7 enterprise release features. I hope you agree that TestRail 5.7 had something for everyone with, as I already mentioned, quite a number of those features very high up on our list of most highly requested features from the TestRail community. TestRail 5.7 represents something of a milestone for us in terms of having a new enterprise tier aimed at larger teams requiring features to support their enterprise processes, single sign-on and auditing in particular. But our enterprise package is about more than just our new TestRail Enterprise features. As an enterprise customer, you'll get enhanced support and a slightly different sales approach too. So here to talk a little bit more about those are our head of support, David Enriquez, and our head of customer success, Lara Gill. So David, I think we're over to you first.
Thank you, Simon. So as Simon mentioned, TestRail Enterprise comes with priority support and additional support services. So once a team purchases TestRail Enterprise, they would be given unique details with which they can log their support request. Requests from enterprise customers are treated with priority routing. What this means is that all enterprise requests will be addressed within 1 business day guaranteed. Please note that our business hours are currently 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Central Time. Enterprise teams also have the added benefit of being able to request 30-minute screen sharing sessions with our support engineers. These screen sharing sessions are for technical requests that require, more visibility than what email communication can provide. Follow-up screen sharing sessions can also be booked if needed until we do resolve the issue. It's important to note that some subjects will be considered out of scope for screen sharing sessions, such as assistance with configuring or coding your automation scripts, configuring your server, or assisting with any kind of custom plugin development. Screen sharing sessions will be booked in 1 business day after the initial inquiry for the next available time slot with our support engineers. This has been long requested, and we're happy to be able to provide these screen sharing sessions now for TestRail Enterprise customers. To request a session, please just go ahead and contact support via the Enterprise Support email distro, which is sent via the welcome email, and that will be sent after you've signed up with TestRail Enterprise. Now to share on how to upgrade to TestRail Enterprise, here's Laura.
Thanks, David. So TestRail Enterprise is available with cloud and server annual plans. So if you wish to take advantage of the new features and upgrade to Enterprise, I recommend taking a look at our pricing page for more information. TestRail Enterprise features are available with the 5.7 release, and you'd purchase or upgrade to the Enterprise plan to avail of those features. So when you're ready to purchase, you can contact us directly for a quote, and that's by emailing contact@gorok.com. If you already have an existing annual plan, we're also happy to take this into account when providing the quote. Currently, we're also offering a 25% discount for the first year for teams upgrading to Enterprise. Now, this offer is only available for a limited time, and it's available to the 31st of July this year. On top of this, we also have our standard multi-year discount for TestRail Server, and we also have our 1-month discount for TestRail Cloud. If you're not yet a TestRail Enterprise, or if you're not yet a TestRail customer and you're interested in trying TestRail, you can create a trial from our website at www.gorok.com. The current trial version available from our website has the classic 5.7 features. So if you also wish to try the TestRail Enterprise features, all you need to do is just contact us once you create a trial, and then we can enable Enterprise features on your trial account. Existing customers, you can also contact us to have Enterprise features enabled for a short time on your instance as well. The new 5.7 version of TestRail is packed with features that have been highly requested over the years, as Simon has mentioned. So depending on the needs of your business, you can choose to stay on the classic TestRail with the added features that 5.7 offers at no additional cost, or you can upgrade to TestRail Enterprise. Over the years, we've been asked by many customers for features specifically geared towards enterprise teams. So with that in mind, we developed our enterprise product tier, and that's to help those teams use TestRail more effectively. By splitting the product tiers like this, we can help serve the needs of those teams while still maintaining an affordable price for customers who may not need those features. Offering different product tiers lets teams decide which features are more valuable for them and then choose a product tier most suited to their needs. If you prefer not to upgrade to Enterprise, the 5.7 release for TestRail Classic has really exciting long-awaited features, and they're the ones that Simon brought you through just now. And we'll continue to develop features both for Classic Edition and for the Enterprise Edition throughout the year. So I'll pass you back to Simon now, and we'll have some time for a Q&A.
All right, cool. Thank you, Lara. Thank you, David. I can see that we've got a couple of questions. So David, there's one for you in the Slack channel, I think.
Sure. Yeah, I can go ahead and answer this one. So the question from our customer is TestRail 5.7 already out? The update on our accounts, are they automatic, or is there anything that we need to do to get the latest version? So TestRail 5.7 is already out. This is for TestRail Cloud and TestRail Server customers. If you have a TestRail Cloud account, these updates are all automatic and handled by our team. If you are on TestRail Server, you would need to go to your customer portal to get the files needed to upgrade. Please note, we also have documentation, docs.gurock.com, which goes over upgrading on TestRail Server. And if you have any questions regarding the process on upgrading, just feel free to reach out to contact@gurock.com and we'll be able to assist you.
All right, cool. Thank you, David. So there's another question here from Carlos Angel. Are all templates available with this version? Yes, Carlos. All of the test case templates are included with TestRail 5.7, both for Classic and for Enterprise customers as well. Lara, do you feel like filled in the next one?
Yep, yeah, so we have another question here from Dennis, I believe. It's why don't I have auditing and SSO tabs? I'm already using 5.7 cloud version. So with the 5.7 release, there are the classic features, and there's also the enterprise features. So the 5.7 classic features are enabled on your instance already, but if you want to have the enterprise features, such as the auditing and SSO, you would need to upgrade to the enterprise edition, and we can provide a quote for that.
Okay, so they need to contact you for that, Lara, as you mentioned.
Yeah, so if you want to upgrade to Enterprise, yeah, you would just need to contact us for a quote, and you can email contact@gurock.com. We can provide that for you.
All right, cool. Okay, I don't see that many more questions. So there's another one here from Mittal Gohal. Attachment API is only for Enterprise. No, Mittal, the new endpoints for both attachments and reports are for our classic TestRail customers as well. So just to be clear, the enterprise features are single sign-on, audit logging, and configurable backup and restore for cloud customers. Everything else is for our classic TestRail customers, and you don't need to pay any more or take any further action other than actually download the release if you're a server customer to access those features. Okay, I don't see any further questions. So there's one last one here from Scott Duquette. Will this recording be emailed to us? Scott, yes, we will send you out a link after the webinar has finished and the video's been processed. Yeah, we'll send that out to you via email. Okay, I think that's it for the questions. I can see there's a couple more in the channel, but since they're not really related to the 5.7 features, we're not going to answer those in this webinar. If you do have questions that you need answering, then please do feel free to reach out to us either on the forum or you can contact our support team via the contact@guroc.com email address, or there is a web form on our site. You'll have to go and hunt for that though, because I can't remember the link off the top of my head. In the meantime, thank you everybody for joining us today. Please do stay in contact with us and feel free to reach out if you do have further questions that we weren't able to answer during this webinar. And we appreciate your spending time on our website and our blog. While you're there, please do consider signing up to our mailing list. Check out the regular blog posts on blog.guroc.com. Please do check them out there. They are really, really good. I read and review every one of them myself, so I can certainly vouch for that. And please do feel free to join us on our increasingly popular Facebook page as well. If you're on this webinar and you haven't tried TestRail out yet, then please do go and give it a spin. You can do that for free using the link at the bottom of the page here. And with that, we are finished. So thank you everybody for joining, and I will see you at the next one. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.